everyone, this is Atticus with Spoken Worlds. This video is going to be a little different than what you usually have been seeing from me. I wanted to provide a short commentary on some of the comic dubs I've done so far. Give you some behind the scenes info that may or may not interest you, but I figured I'd give it a whirl. This is now the 375th time I've recorded this. I'm totally kidding, it's only been twice. I tried recording initially outside of my usual space, but there was way too much echo, and I tried to cheat by processing the audio to remove the echo artificially, and I just said forget it. So we're back in my closet. Fantastic. But we press on. So I wanted to quickly relay some ideas I had for the channel, explain its purpose for where I'd like to go, and share a bit of my vision for 2026. So I hope you enjoy. Soon after this brief monologue / intro or whatever you want to call it, I will be playing some clips from the comic book dubs that you've seen so far. I think I'm going to make this into two parts. I realized that the time frame to kind of review and kind of go into the Silver Surfer comic book dub took up a substantial amount of the video time because the dub is very long. So I'll do part one dedicated to just the Silver Surfer dub, and then I'll go into the rest of them because I think I have Spider-Man, I have the Watchmen Flash dub, and then the one I just did. So, and then I'll go into some thoughts about what else I want to do with the channel. So that's essentially what we're focusing on. So without further ado, let's go back to Silver Surfer Requiem. Okay, so we'll start with my favorite Marvel character, Silver Surfer himself. Absolutely love this character. He really resonates with me in a lot of areas because he's got so much potential, but he's alone in that potential for most of his life. He meets other people along the way, but the Surfer has always been a loner. That spoke to me for some reason because, someone with so much power has been through so much, and then you only ever see him talk about Shalabal, his wife that he left behind. Absolutely fantastic character. Always reminisces about his time in Zenla. Talks about his wife a lot. You saw this a little bit from the cartoon if you saw the old 1990 series from Silver Surfer. That's where I first fell in love with the character. Absolutely love Silver Surfer ever since then. But yeah, this is considered Marvel's loneliest character. I'd love to do a whole separate video of him just talking about him, but anyways, I'll stay on track. I first started casting for this comic book dub on August 4th, 2025, and it was finally published on September 9th, 2025. Not too bad on timing, but as you know, there were 3 more parts to the whole story, so there was a lot more to go. Silver Surfer originally was actually supposed to be voiced by myself, and I went ahead and read like half the lines for him. After reviewing it with a few people and listening back to it, I realized my voice just didn't match the personality of the Surfer very well, so I just respected the character so much that I needed to find someone else, and that's exactly what I did. I had already locked in Zexik to do the voice of the Thing, and then the uncanny Sissy Clark as Invisible Woman, and the vintage-sounding Mr. Trent Poe for Reed Richards, and then a good friend of mine, Mr. Chris Head as Human Torch. All very good VAs, in my opinion, but for some reason, Surfer, I just couldn't find a VA for the life of me. I knew he needed to have that somber sound like he did from the original cartoon series, with perhaps a bit more drama in the delivery.
Where do you want this?
Tony Musco had already signed up to portray Galactus. He did all the voice effects for Galactus, so everything you hear from Galactus was done by Tony Musco. But after a few weeks of searching for my Silver Surfer, Tony stepped up to take on that role as well. And I was elated with his performance. He really understood the lines and captured Norrin Radd's pain in each of his lines. And then when we come to understand what exactly is happening to Surfer, he really leans in on it. And you see that in the next few parts. Now, some technical insight. I had a hard time locating the sound for Silver Surfer's board when it was hovering. So I started different sounds that pulled from this licensed sound library that I'm sub to, but nothing seemed to match. One night I was playing Silver Surfer on Fortnite, actually, and I thought, wow, that's it right there. So I took the sound from Fortnite. And in Fortnite, they have the skin for Silver Surfer, but they also give you the glider that you use in-game just before you drop. So Silver Surfer's board audio, I extracted from the game. I extracted the audio and mixed it up to sound a little bit different. But yeah, essentially his board sound is from Fortnite. It's the sound that when he's hovering. When he's flying off, it's a whole different sound. But when he's just hovering there for a moment, you hear that like backdrop sound. That's all from Fortnite with a little bit of audio editing magic there. So, but to add further before we quickly visit the next part, if you hadn't noticed, I'm really into the cinematic atmosphere. So that's why I hear so much orchestral, symphony, cinematic music in all of my comic book dubs. I love Hans Zimmer, Danny Elfman, Ramin Djawadi, and the other composers that really know how to set a scene. So that's what I try to capture. I actually spend more time choosing the right music for the right scene than I do editing the actual video. Sound effects are not so bad, and they are a challenge to find because it causes you to think differently for how something's needing to be conveyed. But music really helps set the tone, and I make sure it doesn't overpower the voice actor's performance. I've watched a few other comic book dubs, and they always have the music or sounds way too high, and it often diminishes the voice actor's performance. So I really was trying to focus on having that right atmosphere being set without overpowering the performance at the same time. And then there are sometimes in certain instances where I'm not playing any music, where it's just, rain in the back or whatever the scene requires, where sometimes not everything needs music. So that's one of the things about this dub I wasn't too much of a fan of as well. And I guess I can just self-critique was maybe there was too much music, to substitute for other things that I wasn't learning how to do yet. But that's how we learn. So anyways, onwards.
Okay, fine. We all make mistakes.
So this was my favorite part of the story because it features our favorite web-slinger, Spider-Man. Leo was the voice actor. He reminds me so much of the Spider-Man from the PS5, played by Yuri Lowenthal. I absolutely screamed when I heard his voice in another comic book dub, and he was so happy to lend his voice to this part. He's been on Casting Call Club since 2021, and he's been in the industry for voice acting for about 6 years. He's professional and incredibly talented with various layers to his voice, so I was very happy to have him on. So, some technical insight. Again, I really wanted to make this story pop, so that's why you see some of the smoke, the debris flying everywhere, lights flashing, and all of that. So I wanted the dub to feel animated in a subtle way, where it didn't take away from the fact that these are beautifully drawn still images, but I still wanted it to stand out in some way. This part is my favorite because of the action and the dialogue between Spider-Man and Norrin. Another thing I wasn't too crazy about in the comic book dub were the pauses between page turns. Ugh. I wish I could go back and just tell myself, hey, don't do it. Because you notice how when the scene ends or the page ends, and then it switches to showing the whole comic page that we just went through. I found that in my later dubs, I stopped doing it because I found it broke the immersion and flow of the story, and it added unnecessary time to the video.
Perhaps a glass kitty cat.
For what he knows will be the last time, he soars above the breathtaking vistas of the world he has called home for so many years.
Part 3 really focuses on Surfer's last moments leading up to the finale, where we see a brief interaction with Doctor Strange, and then it transitions to the two warring alien colonies. Here, Surfer is tasked with mitigating the conflict between them. Phil is played by Mayo Dude 75, and Takal of the Rumati is played by myself. I really enjoyed the exposition provided in this, especially for characters that the reader has no clue about. What made this part so interesting was the background history between these two. I found it funny on how dumbfounded Surfer is when he's tasked with choosing a side. We get to see Surfer fail a bit, only to power on and take everything out, because there's a scene where he's done talking with them, and then Takal says, you may go. So he goes out, and he just He does his best to make a decision, he gets obliterated, and then he just kind of powers on through. And then eventually he goes to each planet, and he squashes decades-long beef between these warring alien colonies. And it's such a great story. I love the artwork. Actually, the artwork was done by Esad Ribic. He's a penciler, inker, and colorist, and has been drawing for Marvel since 2000. His most recent work can be seen in Aliens vs. Avengers, with its first issue that debuted in July 2024. So, absolutely my favorite. I'm definitely going to look into more of his work, maybe feature more comic book dubs with his artwork, and we'll see where it goes from there.
The reason is the same. Universal recognition of a need shared by all species, all races, all worlds.
And finally, the end, the finale. This is where it really starts to get real. And it begins with a dynamic Sir Captain as Uatu the Watcher. Fantastic voice. He's been voice acting since 2019, and he currently works out of Australia, where he's now doing some paid work. Yeah, he's come a long way, and while I only got to know him for a short time, I'm happy to have met him when I did. If you're interested in following his work, you should YouTube Flipping is Hard. That's the name of the game. You'll see his work as a narrator in a Steam game coming out soon. And then last but not least, we have Shala Baal. She was really easy for me to cast because I immediately had someone in mind. She used to go by Happy Voxy. Now she goes by Hearthwind at the time of this video. She's really great with ASMR, has that perfect soothing voice. I'll post a link to her channel in the description. She did some previous work for me, and she never disappoints.
For the first time, he saw grief.
This finale part was impressive because we see a different side of Galactus that you don't normally see. Mercy. A beautiful moment between Norrin and Galactus is shared after the many years of Surfer doing his bidding. And then lastly, towards the end of the dub, when Galactus is sending Surfer's body into space, I really wanted to get the power cosmic sound to have a consistent sound. So you should hear something familiar because you see in the earlier parts where Surfer's also utilizing the power cosmic. But he gets it from his boss Galactus, so I wanted that sound to be consistent. But when Galactus uses it, it's got a little bit more punch. But you still hear that familiar sound. So that was the intention behind that. So if you hear some repetitive sounds, it's just to establish some consistency, I guess. I really enjoyed making this dub. There was no video editing team, just a lot of disposable income for music licensing, video editing programs, and the analytical side of mine in overdrive. So really hope you liked it. If you're interested in the next part, I'll be doing a part 2 going over the other dubs. Those are really going to be a little bit more quicker, and then I'll go into my final closing speech, I guess, or closing monologue about my direction for the channel, other things I like to do, and the whole purpose of the channel, essentially. So stay tuned.
I know only this, that his name was Norrin Rad, once the Silver Surfer, Herald of Galactus, that his actions saved the lives of billions, that he was my friend, and that he shall be missed.